Welcome to the Imposter Syndrome Club. I'm Alice, and as always, I am with my gorgeous friend, Jessamy G. Hello.
Hi, Alice. How are you, my love?
I'm good. It's Friday. We did it. I mean, I know we're not supposed to reference time on these recordings.
No, it doesn't matter.
I did it.
You did it. It's fine. It's Friday. Now everybody knows our dirty secret.
What? It's not live? It's Friday. We made it through the week. I'm so happy. I'm so happy to be here and see you and just debrief on everything.
Yeah, me too. I had when you arrived because we had a few episodes recently recording with guests, which has been awesome. We've had some really exciting interviews. But so I've seen you a lot, but I still feel like I miss you because I haven't actually got to spend proper time with you. So it's fun. But then you tried to talk to me. I'm like, no, save it for the podcast. We can't have a chat and not record it like fucking idiots.
I totally get that feeling though of like missing someone. Yeah, I've seen your face a lot, but it's always been shared. And that does change the dynamic and it's beautiful. And like you say, I'm super excited. We've done a batch of some very fucking cool interviews that are coming out.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like I have to share you with a stranger.
I know, gross.
Yeah,
that's awesome. So I'm going to attempt to be a professional podcaster because I got up at 4 a.m. this morning to go to the Indie Pod Summit, which because it was based in the UK started at 2 a.m. 2 a.m. I didn't get up at 2, but I did get up at 4. And they're like, oh, you should like tell people about the things that you do. I'm like, oh, that sounds like a bit of revolutionary advice.
It's like, oh no, we don't just record it like in someone's mom's garage and never tell anyone and then wonder why the band never gets big.
Yeah, we record it and then we throw it into the air and go into the universe. Be free.
All right. So what did they tell? What are we going to do?
Well, I just thought I would let people know, particularly if you're newer listeners to the podcast, a little bit about some places you can find us that you might not know about. So for the last, I don't know, like maybe 10 or so episodes, we've recorded video. You might not know that if you only ever listen on non-video platforms, but if you listen on Spotify, you can also watch our beautiful faces via Spotify. But we've also got a YouTube channel that's the Imposter Syndrome Club on YouTube. Our 3 subscribers love it.
I was like, that shit is popping off.
Because, well, to the point of the pod professionals, if you don't tell anyone about it, how are they going? I'm like, I'll just put it up there and someone will search Jessamy G, Alice Edie, just like wonder what those bitches are up to. So, yeah, there's a whole bunch of episodes up there. If you want to watch. It's cool. You can see our little podcast HQ. And then our new exciting thing we spoke a little bit about the other week.
Yeah. So I don't even know how to fully introduce it, but basically I will be writing a little summary of our conversations that we send out once a week because we get loads of messages, DMs and comments on the Insta channel around stuff that comes up like often the name of if we've discussed like a psychological model or something kind of technical or particular. People, it's so cool to me. Like people get as nerdy as us and as excited and curious. So we're going to, instead of putting it on the show notes, like in the back archives, it'll just be an email that pops out and has those points and just some thoughts. And it's going to be short and sweet because I'm lazy and I hate receiving long emails. So don't worry about it. It'll take like a minute to read and be some cool treats in there.
Yeah. We've called it the anti-newsletter because it's not going to be a whole bunch of useless shit. But if you want to sign up to that, you can do that on our website, impostersyndromeclub.com. Did it.
Fucking profesh.
Do I get my merit badge
Yeah,
now?
you do. You get all the gold stars. Thank you for being so on that. Like that is every ounce of professionalism in this podcast has been brought by Jessamy G and it's so beautiful and I appreciate it so fucking much. You're an amazing creative partner to have and I feel very lucky. So thank you.
Well, ditto, babe.
Well, let's see when the fucking newsletter comes out. Let's have this conversation in a week.
That's going to be, I believe in you.
It's going to be entirely emojis.
Yeah. Oh, I'm here for that. That's fine.
Okay, cool. I was like, I pitched that as a joke, but it's not.
I think also the benefit of framing it as a like super simple anti-newsletter means that like, you can do that. You have control.
I'm like, the bar is so low that it's subtle The bar has gone through the earth, through the center of the earth and out the other side.
Yeah, you make the rules.
Can I tell, this is unrelated to anything, but it's so fucking cool. So it's the emoji, summary of a thing in emojis is the link. I did a job last year for the Australian Contemporary Opera Company.
Oh, yes, I remember this.
Yeah. So it was the Book of Longing by Leonard Cohen, and they essentially would like sing it, and there was a massive screen up behind them, and I was doing live sketches kind of so that it looked like a book of the lyrics, but the sketches were kind of like emerging, and there was like marginalia around it. And my friend Wendy and her partner James came, which was so beautiful and also so scary because somehow doing that, performing in front of 300 strangers is fine, but add in Tom, my partner, and James and Wendy, and I was fucking terrified. But anyway, so this performance lasted about 90 minutes. And the next day she sent me the most beautiful, supportive message. But afterwards, there was literally a list of about 25 emojis, and it was every drawing that I had drawn over the course of the performance, every sketch, she'd found the emoji equivalent of that.
Wow.
And it was crazy. Like, it was amazing. I felt so seen to have someone pay that depth of attention to something that I was working so hard on and that I was so stressed out about. I was like in full tears. It was fucking beautiful.
What a beautiful thing to do.
Yeah.
So was she doing that as she was watching it?
I have no idea. I think she just remembered. It's like her brain is like that. I guess you remember the things that you pay attention to. And that was the thing, is like receiving a message a day later with someone who had just noticed something, who cared enough to notice at that depth. Yeah, it was amazing.
That's so gorgeous. Yeah. I love that, because it's with so many things, you don't, even if you are, so you're being projected on a massive screen in front of hundreds of people, thousands of people maybe, I don't know. So like obviously someone is seeing it and understanding it and it's going into their brain, but you don't get the opportunity usually to talk to these people. And so in your mind, you're like, I did this thing, and then it like went on the screen and then like out into the ether forever. So to have that sort of feedback that like, yes, I saw, I paid attention.
Exactly that is like you do this performance, but then you don't get to quiz people. There's no exam afterwards to be like, were you even fucking paying attention? So
I do that when I invite people to any of my creative endeavors. I prepare a Q&A ahead of time and then I say, all right, cunts, pop quiz. And then I see who my real friends are.
15 minutes into the conversation, Alice made a reference to something. Was it A, her feet smelling, B, the opera, or C, friendship?
That has just so perfectly summed you up.
I know.
And the answer is D, all of the above.
That's why you A+.
And that's what I'm going to put on your tombstone.
And those are the emojis that that's going to be the headliner of our newsletter.
Aww.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm sorry. That was a sidetrack, but it was just such a beautiful thing.
I don't know why you're pretending that this podcast isn't entirely sidetracked.
There was a main track somewhere.
However, in a shocking turn of events, I have something to talk about that is actually related to imposter syndrome.
Okay, tell me. This is the thing you refuse to tell me downstairs.
Shit.
Okay, what happened?
So, firstly, like what a funny thing that something, and this isn't a big thing, it's just like something I experienced this week. But when I like had a moment of like feeling really shitty and self-conscious, I also went, ooh, I can talk about this.
Ooh, this feels bad.
Linings.
Put it in the bank.
Put it in the bank. So this requires a little bit of context for the sake of the listeners, not as much for you, Alice, but Anyway, yes. So people may or may not know that one of the hats I wear is as the host of Creative Mornings Melbourne. So Creative Mornings is a global breakfast lecture series that was born in New York City, and it's now run in 223 cities all over the world. There's a global theme, so it's something very broad like truth or ethos or dare or, these sort of broad themes. And the idea is you program someone, they're usually sort of emerging or established artists in any field from that city, to give a sort of 30-minute talk on that theme. And every city has a chapter host. And at the end of 2020, I took over the role of host for the Melbourne chapter. That's the background. So in the last decade probably, if I was going to think about how imposter syndrome has shown up for me, that this has been a real fucking juicy one. So Jeremy, who was the host of the chapter before me, he started the chapter. He ran it for 9 years. He did an amazing job. You'd get turnouts of 100 odd people to every event. And when he was leaving, so imagine, so it's the end of 2020, right? We've had a fucked year. We've been locked inside our houses and everything felt well, why not? Why not put my hand up for this thing? The world's on fire. Who cares? And at the time when they sort of put the call out and said that Jeremy was going to be moving on and seeking expressions of interest, it was very much a flippant, lying on the couch, yeah, I'll put my name in the thing. Why not? Really not expecting anything to come of it. And then as I got sort of further through, so there's a bit of a process that you go through because it's all sort of run through Creative Mornings HQ in New York. So there's an interview process, all of this sort of stuff. You have to put together an application. And with every step, I was oh, fuck, am I going to have to actually do this?
Wait.
Yeah. Increasingly excited, but increasingly scared at a thing that was just sort of a reasonably flippant. When I say flippant, I did care. I just thought it was so unlikely that it would go to me that I didn't put as much thought into it at the start anyway. So I was already sort of approaching it with a little bit of really? You want me to okay? But I did feel, I think I can do a good job of this. Then we had 2021 where we were great news, guys. We're going to be back. In person, running real life events. So 2020, so they tried to do a few things virtually. Then I think they just sort of didn't do it for the majority of the year, and then Jeremy moved on. Then 2021, we ended up running all the events virtually, which for me was quite a nice sort of on-ramp into taking over the role because there were less, responsibilities around venue and sponsors and all that sort of stuff. This is a very long-winded setup. I apologize.
No, don't.
When you're just so self-conscious, so aware of the sound of your own voice, this is too long.
Dude,
It'll be fine.
It's not. We're good.
I know. I'm an idiot. Shut up, Jessamy, you stupid bitch. No one wants to hear what you say.
No. We're there. We're with you.
I'm just giving you an insight into my brain at the moment. Anyway, so last year was our first full year of in-person events back in real life. And it was good. But I think we were we're still finding our feet. But essentially it's almost starting again, right? Because there's no momentum.
Yeah.
Had Jeremy moved on and there was no pandemic and passed it on to myself or someone else, you'd be picking up something as it was in the air.
I even remember that as an audience member before we were even particularly close. I knew you, I knew Jeremy, but these were at 5 years ago acquaintance level. I would be an audience member just coming once a month, and it was kind of a thing that you did. You just signed up once a month. I almost didn't even look at who the speaker was. It was just in that cadence of always showing up. So
exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. So, registrations have been low. I mean, it was still very we'd have some really good months and then some slower months, and this is all completely to be expected. And the other hosts around the world that I've spoken to and spoken to the people at HQ, plenty of chapters simply didn't survive and have since shut down because they just couldn't get the gears turning again post-pandemic. But definitely the common experience is that it's basically starting again. You're rebuilding, you're finding people again, getting people back in that flow. Other complications around more people are working from home or flexibly.
That was just what I was going to say is 3 years ago, everyone in that audience was on their way to an office. The talk starts at 8:30 and by 9:30 they're at work. But if you're working from home, then it's a big fucking ask.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, so I know all of these things and it's fine. And honestly, I've been feeling pretty good. I've got an awesome team. We've added a few people to the team this year, which I'm really excited about. And I've been having like a really quite good start to the year in that I've got some work stuff, like new projects with work stuff, which I'll talk about another time, that I'm quite excited about. I made a new friend in the last couple of weeks, which is always very exciting. like nice things are happening. And then isn't it funny how you can be like, everything's great and wonderful, and then one person says one thing and you're like, I'm a piece of shit. Why do I even bother?
Oh, no.
And it wasn't even anything bad.
Oh, no.
So we were talking about like the plan for the year ahead and trying to do exactly some of this stuff, like connect with other communities, rebuild the audience a little bit, just try and, you know, like remind people that we exist. Because the thing is, it's a free event. It's a non-profit organization. Like there's no catch. There's nothing to be sold. It's just trying to connect a thing that already exists that is awesome with the people who'd be interested in going to it. That's it. But there's work to be done around that. And then someone brought up in this conversation like, oh, well, you know, in Jeremy's tenure, there was always over 100 people. Now, I will say this. I'm giving a certain tone to the way this person said this. They did not use that tone. This is how it sounded in my head.
This
was a perfectly normal
nightmare though.
It was a nightmare.
God.
And they did nothing wrong. They were not being mean.
No,
this tone that I'm using is how I was hearing it.
But
they were just saying
like
some things that were true.
It's just, but I think the thing is like we spend so much time comparing ourselves in our own head, and I feel like there's so much work that all of us do to be like, stop fucking comparing yourself. It's just you.
Yeah.
You're beating yourself up. No one else is doing it. You're doing great. You're doing fine. You're doing great. And then to actually hear someone else in real life out of their mouth hole in their face just do the compare, be like, oh yeah. But like,
it was relevant to the conversation. Like there was nothing mean or wrong about what they were saying, but I just turned into a tiny little baby child on the inside, and my whole being just suddenly went to everything, every doubt that I've had and everything that I thought other people thought is true. And everyone's out there going, she's ruined it. She's fucked it up. It's not what it used to be. It's never going to be the same. And the reasons that registrations are a bit lower aren't because of that pandemic. It's because people hate me.
Yeah,
because
they don't
I'm
like
doing
you.
A terrible job.
No one's going to come to your birthday party.
Yeah. Why did I think I could do this? I don't have any qualifications to do this, and everyone knows, and they're all laughing at me. Like this, from this like sentence that then like went off into just like other normal, like useful conversation about what we were doing, destroyed my week. And saying week, it could be more than a week because this is only a few days ago. It could be the month or the year.
I'm just warming up.
And then, but to watch the flow-on effect of that. So there's that initial thing of like, okay, this person has said this one thing, which was just like, it's objectively not a big deal. To me, it was crushing. It not only made me doubt everything that I was doing within Creative Mornings, it then made me go, I'm fucking everything up. Nothing I do is at the quality I want it to be. I'm doing too many things. I'm just doing a bunch of things badly. Like I went into such a fucking tailspin, and I'm not quite out of it yet. So I'm sharing this just in the spirit of what this podcast is meant to be, right? Like I'm fine, I'll be fine, but just in the sense that like you can be riding high, top of the world one day being like, everything's great. I feel inspired about work in a way I hadn't for ages, and this is all kicking off well. And then we are so designed to just hone in on any sort of negative feedback, and also like to twist it and, manipulate it inside of our own brains to make it an attack, when that's not what it was at all. But now I'm feeling like I'm recovering from an attack. Yeah. That's not at all what it was.
But I totally understand.
An attack on myself.
Yeah, it's like your brain does that thing where it takes the one sentence and then like takes the tone or the texture of that and then extrapolates that and writes all the other scripts for that. So it's like, it starts with, it's like, that's the input is like, when
it's
Jeremy
like I'm chat
this,
GPT and someone input Jessamy is shit, and it went
but also
I spat out all the reasons why I'm terrible.
Yeah, and the thing is like I can understand how that person said that as the shorthand for just contextualizing then and now. Like actually they were referring to a time frame, but the fact that they didn't say pre-2020, which keeps it not personal. I think they just happen to use the shorthand of the Jeremy times.
Yeah.
As opposed to like, but before Jessamy or after Jessamy, it's like the before times, but like tethering it to the person suddenly makes it like, oh no, this is like a popularity contest. This is like who loves who more, and this like beloved person, and like
that's a good point actually. Maybe it's something in just the act of using the name made me then feel like it's person versus person, not time versus time. Yeah.
I mean, not entirely. I'm sure it would have still stung regardless, but like I think there is just immediately, because that is set up personally.
Yeah.
Like you can't not feel that personally, even though, like I say, I think it was just their shorthand for describing the contrasting the before times.
Yeah. And I think they also like they didn't have a lot of the context around the last couple of years and all of that sort of stuff as well. So
that's
Anyway, I've been a big fucking baby mess about it, and I've been real sad, and I've just been like, why am I doing anything?
Yeah.
I'll get over it. But
but also I'm just sorry. Like I think that it's so fucking relatable. Just that feeling of like, like am I not are all the dark thoughts, like are all the mean voices that I've spent so many years telling to shut the fuck up. I'm like, oh my God, have they been right the whole time?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh no. So what do you like, what happens now? What do you do? Just wait it out.
I think so because I mean, I'm like the good thing is like this whole conversation was part of a broader conversation around like how exciting. It's the start of a new year. We've got a bigger team. We can do more stuff. Like it was part of a like overall like very positive and like aspirational conversation around what to do with the year. So it's not like I'll be like, oh shit, like I've got to change something about my behavior. Like those changes, not changes, but like the work is already happening. So I think, being quite a like pragmatic, practical person, generally when not that it was, I interpreted it as feedback. I'm like, okay, what do I do? What do I change? But the fact that, that work is already happening, I don't like, but that's probably also why it stung. I'm like, when I'm doing like, this is my best.
And the thing is, you work so fucking hard on that. And it's not like it's this like paid position. It's this like passion project that you've moved over the course of the last 2 years. You've moved your entire professional career around, like not solely for this, but with this as one of your core priorities. So it's not as if you can turn around and shrug it off and be like, yeah, well, whatever, I don't give a fuck. You're like, you give so much of a fuck.
Well, and also it is good. Like it's what we have is really good.
Yeah.
What we've had through the last year is really good. Like there's no part of me that is like, we've been phoning it in and it's a bit shit. It's just the circumstances. So what happens now, I think, is talk to your best mate Alice about it, and then you have a little cry.
I was just going to ask, did you cry in the car? It would have been one of those conversations where I would have been crying behind my eyes, and then I would have just I feel like my whole body would have shut down, and I would have just been like, the rest of that meeting, I don't even think I would have been present. I would have just been like, my key objective is to make it to the end of this meeting and into my car where I can just sit and cry.
I think I maybe had a cry the next day, and it was like far enough away from it to be, but by then it was not like, like someone said a thing that was not at all meant to insult me, but because of my brain, it upset me. By then, by the time I was like in crying zone, I'd gotten to the point of I'm fucking everything up. And that was the weight of the tears. But it's fine. I also, I don't want to make it sound like there was someone that said something horrible in it. That was not.
I'll kill them.
Yeah, you want to?
I'll kill them. Yeah.
No, it was not. That was not at all the situation. But it's just, This is the tough thing, isn't it? Like, you never know. You're just out there like having a regular fucking conversation in the world, and accidentally, by no fault of your own, you've sent someone into a tailspin, and you will never know because you have not been mean or.
But this is the thing. So yes, I fully agree with you. It's like you can drive yourself crazy being like, holy fuck. And this is the thing that I think breaks my heart, is realizing that the majority of the pain in the world is caused by good people not trying to hurt each other.
Yeah.
And that it just, I find so much more devastating than knowing if it was just like, oh, well, 15% of humans are evil and they go around hurting people. You could kind of be like, well, that sucks, but I understand, like that's what that is. But it's not the case. It's like most of the damage is done by good people saying fine things.
Yeah.
That just land.
And isn't that so frustrating?
It's so heartbreaking. Yeah. It's so heartbreaking because I know they would be devastated to find that out. But also, if all of us worried so much about that, we would literally never say anything.
Yeah.
And then still that would upset other people.
Yeah. Exactly. So it's not, there's no like external work to be done. I think I just have to these are not unfamiliar feelings, right? Like it could be set off by anything, by like watching a thing someone says to you, a look someone gives you, a feel like, I don't know, like there's the reason why we started this podcast was when you did your talk at Creative Mornings and spoke about imposter syndrome, fucking everyone who saw that was like, me too. Yeah. Oh my God, me too. I feel like this all the time. So it's, I guess that the benefit of that is that like, you know, that it will pass, and it's good to be able to so readily identify it. And it's a good check-in to be like, okay, like am I actually doing all the things in my power? Like basically, is it true? Like, am I actually fucking everything up? Probably not. Are there things that I could be doing better? I mean, there's always things you could be doing better, but like that's the first check-in. Like, is it true? Nah. Okay, so it's not true. Unfortunately, that doesn't make the feeling go away, but at least then you know you've done that check. So every time the feeling comes back up again, you can be like, I know, I know, babe. Yeah. I know, we feel it. We know it's not true. We just have to kind of let it pass, I guess. Yeah. But action always makes me feel better too. Like doing things that validate my assessment that is not true.
So would that be stuff like sorry, I'm thinking about like 10 different things at once that I want to, they're 10 doors that I want to take this conversation down. But just around, firstly, just to the beginning of what you were saying about sharing it and almost kind of, I think sometimes also what holds us back is that it does feel silly. Like the first piece is the self-awareness, right? To be like, oh, I recognize that I've been triggered by a thing that actually wasn't like what landed as a bullet was not fired as such. Like it was just the person saying it. And I think that that's the first level of self-awareness, because I've definitely had other conversations with people where they're not even at the point where they can recognize that. They're just still in the trigger and they're like, this fucking bitch said this thing. And like, what a bitch. And I'm like, it objectively wasn't the other, you know what I mean? Yeah. So like, that's the first, I think the first step is like, you get that self-awareness of, okay, cool. A person said a thing, full stop, and I was triggered, full stop. Those two sentences are not, it is not the fault of it's not a causal thing. Like what the actual thing that triggered you is inside you.
Yes.
Not inside their statement.
Yeah.
But then, like you said, but then it's still hard because you're like, yeah, but I still feel shit.
But I still feel it.
And now what? And then it's almost like you're angry at yourself, or this is what I was actually saying this to our psychologist this week, but like that frustrating lag period of realizing you're like, oh, okay, I'm really working my fucking ass off and trying to deal with my shit. And the first piece is awareness. And everyone keeps telling you about how like awareness, like the first step is awareness. And you're like, yeah, but it's really annoying to be aware but not able to change it. That lag, and she described it as a loading period, like a loading, you know, the window on your computer screen.
Oh, yeah.
And then the bar is like filling up because something's downloading or whatever. That lag, that latency, I'm like, it sucks.
You know what I'm just picturing in my mind? You're saying like the first step is awareness. I'm picturing like a staircase, right? With one step that is just so long and then all the other steps. So like you're on the staircase, you can see the rest of the steps, but you just like have to walk so far to get there. It's so, it's better when you're just not on the staircase at all.
That's exactly what I said to her. You can just be blindly angry. That's exactly what I said to her. I was like, then you can just be like, it's obviously, it's regressive and you're just pissed off at the person. But at least in that like state of small, like, well, it's fucking their fault.
Yeah. Yeah,
but no,
exactly.
She said that that's not right. We're not allowed to do that.
Oh, damn.
God
we'd actually deal with all our shit. Who knew the therapist would give us that sort of advice? But yeah, it's not like in the whole fucking scheme of the world, obviously it's not a big deal. I reckon give me another week, I'll be over it. But as I said, it's so interesting to like be a detective in my own brain and witness my own behavior. Like even though, and obviously like I was joking when I was giving the background to Creative Mornings, but I think probably like more so today than it would have been last week. I was self-conscious that like I'm talking too long.
Yeah.
I'm taking up too much space. People don't care. Like these are the insidious, nasty little voices that you work so hard to quell over time. And then it's so fucking annoying that a tiny, like insignificant little thing just turns the volume back on. Yeah. But yeah, I think it's just like, it's fine.
It's fine, but it's fine.
It is what's happening
it is fine,
this week in
and
my
it
life.
also sucks. Like it can be both, and I totally get that like caveat of like, listen, it's not the worst thing in the whole world, blah, blah, blah. Like, yes, that is true. And also at the same time, it is these like micro paper cuts of hurt that it's like, that's a really human experience. And I think it's maybe especially relevant to kind of like acknowledge them, like small things still hurt as well, you know, and that's like a very real thing, and it is a really shared thing because we're all walking around getting triggered and triggering each other like at the same thing. And it's like, and I guess just that creating space where you're allowed to talk about that, and it's like it's allowed to be a small thing and still real.
Yeah, exactly. And we're all walking around with a bunch of open wounds and we don't know what each other's are, right? So you could be trying to hug someone and accidentally fucking put your finger into their I was like, is it their butt?
The way you mind that.
Accidentally. Happens to me all the time. More than you would think. No, I really wish I'd used a different analogy.
Okay.
But you know what I'm trying to say, right? Like you don't know what someone's soft points are that are going to set someone else off. I mean, I don't know. Like I remember being a kid growing up, like I knew exactly what my sisters were, and if she really made me angry, I would just
that's such a
push right on it. It's so mean. It's so mean, but it's foolproof.
It's such a fun. I mean, but I guess this is, you know, on some level, this is why intimacy is scary, because it like any relationship where you're close enough to someone, like eventually someone knows what those things are, and you're like, I guess I have to trust you to not do that.
I wonder as well, so thinking about the ones related to my sister, they were things that I think that she feared about herself, but weren't true. I think they were things that she feared could be true or something. I wonder how often those things are truths and how often they're fears.
Oh my God. Have I ever told you about Clayton's pros and cons list?
No, please do.
Okay, so I'm like, I love how I'm like gossiping, but I'm not, because it's my own life.
Oh my God, so did I tell you what?
Oh my God.
Alice did the other day.
So this happened, God, it must be like 8 years ago or something. But essentially for anyone that I don't know, this is my ex-husband, who also, side note, our divorce came through this week.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And it was beautiful, and we're very good friends. And so this is not in any way like a throwing Clayton under the bus story. I need to just put that caveat in place. But we'd been together, I think at that stage for about 5 or 6 years. And we were going through a really, really rough patch. And that rough patch had gone from like a few months to 6 months to kind of like 8 months. And it was breaking point. And we'd gone for like a long walk in this forest. We were still living in Cape Town. And we kind of just, I remember it so clearly. We were sat down on this log and it started raining. And we just looked at each other and we were like, this is not fun. Like no one's having fun. This sucks. This does, it's not even a fight. No one's mad about anything, but like no one's enjoying this. No one's getting anything out of this. Like maybe it's time to just kind of call it quits. And we kind of like sat, talked that through, worked out. And then we ended on this conclusion where we were like, yes, okay, it cannot continue like this. This is not a way to live. But we do still both love each other and let's give it one more go, premised on the fact that like, the go we give it now is going to be everything because we've seen what the alternative is. Like if this doesn't work, we're both going to just call it. So that was the frame for what happens next.
Okay.
So he's like, okay, cool. So on that note, like while we've been working out, are we going to stay together? Are we going to break up? He's like, I'm scared.
I'm fidgeting in my chair. Like, is this an Alice pros and cons list? Is this what we're about to do?
He had written a fucking list, which is also makes him sound like such a dick, but it wasn't. Like it was a private list. It was what anyone would do in their fucking journal.
Yeah, and he's
to make a big life choice.
Wow.
Okay, but wait.
Hang on, did you show?
Yes!
Oh, God! Yes! Oh, God! I feel, when there's like a really cringy TV show and you can't watch?
It was.
Oh, my God.
So imagine at this stage, it's the person I've been in a relationship with for like 6 years. He knows me so fucking well. He wrote this list, never thinking my eyes would touch it. So he wrote it with the most brutal honesty. And it was like, it in the conversation was like, well, if we're fucking giving this all in, like, what are the things that you don't like? What are the things that you do like? Because like, let's get to the fucking bottom of this. If the things that you don't like are things I can't change, that presents a problem. If the things you don't like are things that I also don't like, then I can work on those things. Yeah. And we can both benefit from that. But like, I literally sat and probably about 70% of this list has just gone into my repressed memory. Like I don't even open that box.
Yeah.
But we sat together and I read this list of like what someone thinks about me when they are also firstly know me so well and secondly are not feeling super generous about that.
I genuinely feel nauseous. I think I'm going to throw up on your behalf.
I can't even, it's like stuff I will never even say because it was exactly that. It was like watching the deepest fears you have about yourself as a person, like the things that you think are the worst parts of you and then have, in order to still face the day, like you've had to make peace with them and kind of be like, well, either it's not that bad or it's not as bad as I think it is, or I probably notice it more, all of that like work. And then you're like, nope, it's there on paper and like it's there and it's ugly and he does not love that.
Oh no! Well, maybe my shit's true too. Oh
no.
God! Okay, I have some follow-up questions. They're not about what's. I will never ask you what exactly was on the list. You can take that to the grave. But I'm very curious to know how. So you've had this conversation. You're like, we're going to give it another go, but we've got to put everything we've got into it. We've got to be really open and honest. Okay. So at what point does he tell you? So he's previously written this list. He's already written it. At what point does he tell you he's written the list? And do you ask to see it? Or does he say, I would like to show you what's wrong with you?
To be honest, this is a while ago and I don't remember. Okay. But if I had to guess, knowing both of us very well, he would have just told me that he had been thinking about it. And I know the way he thinks. I would have asked. 100%. I've been like, ooh, is it something that would hurt me?
Let me at it.
What Pandora's box is this? And then the thing was afterwards, it was this difficult conversation around him being like, well, this feels shitty for both of us. It wasn't like he was enjoying it.
Of course.
It was a weird thing and probably shouldn't have been handled that way, but like it just unfolded and there we were. So he's like, well, but you write your list so that I also know. And I was like, dude, I can't do that because you wrote that list with total purity. Like you wrote that list as you. If I write a list now, it is only to hurt you. And that sucks. And like, I'm not going to do that. And that would be that would just be toxic for both of us.
Yeah. Oh, this is, I mean, hey, look, thank you for taking me out of my own head because this has really affected me deeply.
This is not competitive.
No.
Shadow insecurity shit. It's
not
just,
at all. I'm thinking now about like, what would I do in that situation? Because I think that if I knew that it existed, I think the curiosity would be too great.
Yeah.
And also as a, someone with a penchant for problem solving, I'd be like, ooh, is there stuff in there like, yes, fix me. Is there stuff that I can fix? But then, what if it's just like her face? Her stupid face. I can't do anything about that, Dan.
Well, also I think the thing that was weird about it, like obviously there were so many feelings, but also there was something of a relief as well about once the pain is through, you also see the thing that you're most afraid that anyone would ever know about you or notice about you with this particular flaw. And you kind of just see it as a sentence written down and it sucks, but it's also fine.
I guess also that the nice thing about that particular situation is like, yeah, okay, there's all your flaws shown to you on a piece of paper, but that person loves you anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So it wasn't like, here are all the reasons that I'm leaving you.
Yeah.
It was, here are all the things that I find challenging about you, but I love you anyway. I don't know. That's kind of nice.
Yeah, it's true.
Wow. I don't know where to go from here.
I got nothing.
That's really flawed me. And I can't believe you've never told me that before. That's incredible.
I know.
All right. Well, tell me about how you're feeling post-divorce. That must be, I mean, I ask people, like the people in my life that have gotten divorced, when they say like, a divorce came through, I'm like, do we congratulate? Oh, this is a good thing. And for the most part, it has been like, regardless of what their situation has been, sometimes it's been amicable, sometimes it's been difficult. But I guess either way, it's like that part is over. The process of separating is now done and the admin part is finished, which has got to be, as any admin being over is a cause for celebration as far as I'm concerned.
Laundry, check. Divorce, check. Dishes, check. Yes.
But does it feel any different?
I haven't seen it. Like I sent him the screenshot of the documents or whatever. It feels awesome. It's really beautiful. It's really nice having it tied up. Like it's one of those weird things where it on one hand it's literally the same as getting married. You're like, it's a bunch of paperwork that on one hand makes no difference whatsoever. And yet also at the same time, on the other hand, makes all the difference.
Yeah.
And it's such a strange thing. And it's something I never understood before being married. I was so lukewarm on the idea of, not even lukewarm, just cold on the idea of getting married. Like it was never something I wanted. It was never something I aspired to or thought I would do. And then we did it and it was awesome. Like I loved it. I think it's beautiful and I think it's really fun and cool being someone's like official best friend for life.
Yeah.
It's cool. And yeah, I think just the sort of flip side of that, it's nice having a full stop and and turning the page and it's like a new chapter, which I guess was happening in so many other ways anyway in the interim. But yeah, just knowing that that's under control. It's good.
Yeah. Well, congratulations.
Thanks.
Yeah.
James. Thank you.
I know both of you, I think have been so, and I know that it's not been easy, but I just find you so inspiring the way that the two of you have handled this situation the whole way through, even when it's been hard. And I think, you're both to be congratulated for just doing it so beautifully and with so much care and love for each other. And I remember you saying, like, even in the midst of things where things were still hard and tricky, in a conversation that you'd had with him around like getting married, saying, I'm so proud of us for doing that. Like, I'm so glad that we did that. And I think what a beautiful thing to be able to see, even in the midst of it being messy and painful and all of those things, to not be like, I never wanted to fucking get married anyway, and then I did.
I gave him the best years of my life.
Exactly. Any of that shit, to be like, no, I'm actually so glad that we did that, even though it's ending now. I'm really glad that we did that, and I think that's a beautiful way to look at it.
Thanks, love. I think, but to refer to our initial conversation of triggers, it's also funny how it's lovely and good and whatever, but it is like, I think any partner or ex is a specific situation where one person can like trigger you.
Oh, sure.
Beyond, like, the scale of trigger is insane. Like, it goes from being like the whole like Zen, look at this, consciously uncoupled, everything's beautiful.
Yeah.
To like fucking
yeah. I think that's a thing that only like family and partners can do, is annoy you in a very, very specific way.
Oh man. So how are you feeling? I wanted to ask the trigger. I'm now looping back, but just there's so much to talk about there. But like, this was again the unofficial third in our relationship, Sorka the psychologist.
Yes. Shout out.
No, like something she said the other day where she was talking about like layers of meanings. So she was like, so we're gonna acknowledge the tea that you just spilled on yourself.
So, ladies and gents, this is why you should subscribe to our YouTube channel, because I just poured a cup of tea all over myself.
God, but it was so cute. And also your teacup matches your top, and it's amazing.
It's not by accident.
I don't doubt that.
Sorry.
It's like, I was like, do I just keep going through that?
No, there was no, like, it's literally, it's all over me. You know, these moments sometimes, like when you bite your cheek, or like very occasionally I like stab myself in the eye with the mascara wand. I'm like, these are things that I do every day, like all the time. I'm an adult person, but then every now and then I just, like, nothing happened. I didn't drop that tea. There was no sudden noise. I just missed my mouth. I just missed.
You're like, it's happening.
Sometimes as a 37-year-old woman, you just forget where your mouth is, apparently. You just get it wrong.
Your calibration on your limbs just is...
It probably happens more than I'd like to admit.
In my mind now, there's like a montage. Like if someone had been watching you throughout the day, smacking yourself in the face.
I do also have a weird thing where I will just drop things out of nowhere. Like I'll be holding onto something. It's like there'd been a loud noise or something to shock me, and I just drop it, but nothing's happened. I just drop things out of nowhere. I
get massive, like, in that way of like a shock and a disproportionate shock response to movies, to any jump scare in a movie.
Oh, really?
we went and watched Avatar this week, and I literally shat myself about 5 times. It's not even scary. It's a movie about blue people. Like, it's literally just like every now and then an army man runs in. Like, you know what I mean? I'm like, what the fuck? The stakes are not very high to me personally.
I've been trying to work out how to. So Dan and I both work from home most of the time. And so we've got our own, I always say like my room and Dan's room, which makes it sound weird, like we are siblings who live in the same house. We each have our own bed. We have a shared bedroom.
Oh yeah, and then shared bedroom and then your own studio.
Studios, yes, it'll do. But because he works in video production and in music, he's often got headphones on. And he's often listening to stuff up quite loud. And I have not been able to work out a way to get his attention without scaring the absolute shit out of him, because his back faces the door. So I come in and I'm like screaming his name. I'm banging on the door to try and give him like the most amount of notice that I can that I'm behind him. And then eventually we just try and like very slowly. I've tried all the methods. I've tried going like right in with a hand on the shoulder, scares the shit out of him. I've tried going like slowly around. I feel like that's worse.
Slow is worse. Yeah, I don't know why.
It's like a little shadow, just like, because I think you might think, oh, like that's just the light. Yeah. Then you're like, no, it's a person. Anyway, I'll stay tuned. I'll report back.
You've got to email him.
Coming in. Yeah, maybe.
Or just you open the door, take a photo of the back of his head working, and then text him that image.
What were we saying about admin, Alice?
Okay. What were we say about being creepy? It's no to both of those things.
Yeah. Yeah. But yes, anyway.
So Sorka.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. What were we talking about? Avatar. Tea.
Sorka, our psychologist, said how things have like 2 layers of meaning. Have you guys done this one? I'm like, does she do the same material with us?
It doesn't sound familiar, but go on.
So she was like, there's like the reality layer, and then there's the I think what she called like the signified layer.
Okay. Yeah. No, this isn't ringing a bell.
And like with anything that's triggering like that, there's kind of pulling it back down to like like what actually happened in the world.
Okay. Yeah.
And then like what are the stories that you've written on top of those things? So like, for example, what actually happened was someone made a comment that referred to Jessamy and the way it used to be there.
Yeah.
That is like a thing that you can absolutely confirm happened.
Yes.
But then like the thing that hurt was the layer on top of that of like, okay, it means like they think he did it better than me. They think he was more this, he was more that. I don't do a good job. People don't think I do a good job. Everyone, blah, 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 like all of that noise.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting. She was saying it on a few different layers, but she's like, firstly, it's recognizing when something upsets you, just being able to tease apart those 2 different things so that you know which one you're working with. But then the other part of it, because she was explaining this to me and I was like, I get it, but also understand that is meaning making, right? Like if that is what makes us storytellers, that's what makes us human, that's what makes some wine better than other wine. Is it like reality, grape juice. That's it. Like old grape juice.
Old grape juice.
Story is like, this is from this terroir and this area and it's farmed by this family for 200 years and it's only this time of year that it's harvested, and like all of that like story that's happening on top makes the thing matter. So I was kind of like, yeah, I get that some things are like written on top of reality and are not kind of real in one sense, but also like if you erase that whole level of being, you only literal.
Yeah.
Like that's not a way to live either. And especially for us as people that work in quote unquote creative industries, like I feel like my whole kind of career as an adult has been premised on an ability to write that second layer well. Like I feel like that's what we do is like find meaning in stuff, write meaning onto stuff, make connections where there weren't any. But then it's that same skill set that's rewarded professionally. Like you get real good at it and then you bring that into your personal life and then it's just like runs amok. So that was kind of what I was saying to her. I was like, but you can't punish it and I don't want to turn it off, but like how do you know when to regulate it? And the thing that she said that is now the thing that I've been chewing over in my mind is she's like, that matters when it's shared. Like that meaning is shared with someone. So it's like, that's if they say the thing and you write that story, but they are not buying into the same story as you, then it's just what she was calling maladaptive daydreaming. Like that's just you making up stories that hurt your own feelings. But if that person is like, yeah, no, I did mean it like that, then you're like, oh, okay, whoa, all right. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. I'm working out what I feel about it.
Yeah. Also, I'm in no way, I know I've like mentioned half of the stuff before. It's been on my mind a lot. And I'm not a professional. So also I'm paraphrasing. Paraphrasing something I heard from someone. But like, I don't know.
I think it's really useful. And I think you're absolutely right, which is so frustrating. The thing that you've been rewarded for as an artist and creative person then just like fucks you in the rest of your life. God damn it. Can't win. But yeah, I don't know. There's something that's not quite, like I get it, like in the shared thing, but I think, what if you're writing your own stories okay, here's an example. What if, I've got a great example. So something really big and positive happened in my sister's life this week, which was really exciting and really great. She then went into the supermarket and heard a song that had to do with our mum and history and stuff. And my mum passed away 13 years ago, maybe, so a long time ago. And she'd messaged me, like these were 2 separate things, but she'd messaged me about this and she's like, oh, like smiling and like almost shed a tear in the supermarket. And I was like, oh, let's call that a sign because she would have loved this thing that's just happened in her life. I guess this one's taken away because I am sharing it with my sister. But okay, let's take the sister out of it, right? Let's say that I was walking down the road and my mum's favourite flower fell out of the sky onto the ground and I chose, I don't necessarily believe in signs, but for me, like, why not? Like, why not believe that that's my mum trying to send me some sort of message because that's going to make me feel happy. It doesn't hurt anyone else. Even if I share that story with no one else, what I'm creating on top of like just a flower dropping on the road is connection to my mum.
Yeah.
That is not a shared story with anyone else. But there's no harm in it. Is it only when it's a harmful story that it's bad?
I think that where she was getting at is exactly that. It's like if it's not serving you, then that was what she was calling maladaptive daydreaming. Okay. Otherwise, it's just daydreaming or meaning making, and you're within your rights to do it. Like the example or not within your, whatever, you're within your rights to do whatever you want. But like it's that's not a negative. That's not going to hurt you. It's going to make your life better. But I think her piece was firstly just kind of having an awareness that it is at least not the same thing as hard reality.
Yeah, I've got awareness. I got all the fucking awareness.
The awareness episode. Because she was also saying, like it doesn't have to be shared to matter, but I think it's just recognizing when it's happening. Because her example was like, if you go traveling alone, if you're doing your eat, pray, love, like world travel alone, like there are going to be so many things that are going to be made better by you adding meaning to them. Like it is your story and you get to write it. But it's just like if you do get to write it and you're writing really bad stories that make you feel sad all the time, it's just like it gives you the opportunity to like exit that and be like, okay, no, I don't want to do that anymore.
So when is it useful to investigate the truth of something and when is it not?
Oh God, I don't know. I mean, I guess probably as like is believing it making your life better? And I don't mean that in like a selfish, deluded way, but does it help you get out of bed and live a life that is joyful and productive and generous?
Well, I mean, possibly in the sense that like if you were actually doing, like if I was actually doing a really shit job, for example, and then I was like, these are just the stories that I tell myself to hurt my own feelings when in reality I'm actually just doing a bad job, then it would be worth investigating the truth of that.
Yeah, but I guess you'd go back to the truth of that, and like the truth of that is that that's not what the person said. If the truth of it was she was like, I think you're doing a bad job, and then you'd like told yourself stories, made up stories from that, and then being like, no, it's fine. You're ignoring the truth of that. But the truth of that wasn't that.
I guess I'm just using this situation as an example because it's the one that we're talking about, but I can think of other, I don't know. I think it's worthwhile checking first if it's true or not.
Yeah.
Or if the thing that it makes, so like there's, some of these things are unfounded because of imposter syndrome and previous experiences or whatever, but some of them are founded in reality. I think that's worth investigating.
I agree, but I think that's
While I'm covered in tea. Maybe I am a fuck up, guys.
Live on air, it happens, the unraveling.
I don't even know where my mouth is. I can't host an event. I can't even drink a cup of tea.
I totally agree. Like I agree. Yeah, I don't think that this is intended as an excuse to basically ignore any feedback you get and like blaze through the world being like, things that make me feel bad are all false. Like I don't think that that's what this is. I think it's like when a thing sets off a cascade of really, really damaging thoughts to just get back to like, and it's fine if some of them are true, but it just feels like if there are so many of them and they are all negative and they are all the time, it feels unlikely that they can all be negative all the time and all be true.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. I see.
Statistically.
Yeah. And I guess that's it. Hey, like those, like there may be things that we can do for this specific thing, but the outward spiral that came from that, which was
exactly,
oh, you're not just fucking this, like went from like, oh, maybe there's things we can do to improve this to you're fucking it up and everyone thinks so, to you're fucking everything up and everyone thinks so, to you are a piece of shit.
Exactly.
Probably after point 1 is where it stops being useful.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay,
exactly.
I'm with you. Yeah.
And it's like that thing we've said about imposter syndrome before of like sometimes you are an imposter.
Yeah, sometimes you're just unqualified.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
like when that happens, that's not when you should give yourself the pep talk about like, I belong in any room. I'm like, well, there's some rooms I don't belong in because I'm not a fucking surgeon.
I know we've brought it up before, but there's an Instagram account called The Power of Self-Care, and I find it endlessly funny because it's a satire account, but it's things like, the consequences of your actions are none of your business. And it's so fun because you see like in the comments as well, people not understanding that it's a satirical account.
God. Yeah.
But these are things that people would genuinely say. I feel like it's a really interesting moment because like yes, all of these things and all these great tools that we get from seeing our psychologists and other things that are so helpful for framing things in a way that's not just beating yourself up constantly, but then each individual for themselves. And I imagine it's like a lifelong journey. You're constantly recalculating that equation of like what is like being kind to myself and what is I am ducking out of reality to not do the thing that I know that I should do, but I don't really want to do because it's hard.
That like, over correcting for the thing. Yeah.
Yes.
Have we spoken about toxic positivity? Because I feel like it's connected to that. Just that idea of like insanely, like this cult of positive thinking and I'm just that idea that like admitting that anything sucks sometimes is like bad vibes and
good vibes only.
Yeah, I'm like, no, just vibes are fine.
Whatever vibes you got.
I accept all the vibes. All vibes accepted here.
There was something, and now of course I can't remember what the alternate term was. Alice will put it in her newsletter.
But only in emoji form.
Only in emoji form.
I hope it's a lady dancing in a red dress.
It was just a more useful alternative to positivity, I guess, like to positive thinking.
Yeah.
Maybe it was useful thinking. Not sure. I don't know if you've ever come across a speaker called Chris Helder. He's sort of on that speaking circuit quite a bit in sort of corporate events. He's very good and he's written a book. I don't know if it's called Useful Thinking, but that's the general sort of framing of it is around like something doesn't necessarily have to be true to be useful.
Yes.
So you could say like, this is the best time in the history of time to be alive. Now that's something that is subjective and may or may not be true. But is it useful for you to believe that? Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, for some people you might say, well, it's not useful to believe that because then maybe you don't make strives to make things better. I don't know. But those sort of things like my friend Nick was brilliant at this, like reframing something to be the best thing that could have possibly happened, like your flight getting delayed or just, here was a good one that Chris Helder used. Like, it's like, I love airports. That is a useful belief.
Yeah.
Like there is no part of that will make my life worse by me believing and telling myself I love airports. That's not going to hurt him in any way.
That's a great example because my next question was going to be like, what is the difference between a useful belief and delusion? And I feel like that's answered the question because like a useful belief is something that doesn't have to require you rewriting reality. It's just you rewriting your reality. Because if I say I love airports, I'm like, that's me writing an opinion or an experience for myself. That's not me imposing this on anyone else, right? Like it's not me being like, well, I believe we drive on the right-hand side of the road now.
And I'm sure in his book there are caveats around this stuff.
But I feel like
I choose to believe that my words hurt no one.
Exactly. So, but I think that example kind of answers that question of like,
yes.
And like anything, it's like you need some foundation of self-awareness because all of these things are simple tools. It's so fucking easy to like pick a hole in it straight away and be like, but what about this? And you're like, yeah, I know.
Like that's not what we're saying. We're not what we're saying. Nick used to do this thing where he'd reframe things to be the best thing that could possibly have happened. So I remember when we were like, I was 18 So he would have been like 20, 21. And he was studying in Nottingham in the UK. And I'd been traveling around for a few months, and then like my last stop was with him, and I was just sleeping on the floor of his dorm, and I'd run out of money and I didn't want to go home. Like we both got jobs at this like horrible, like the shittest bar in Nottingham, and that is saying a lot if you haven't been to Nottingham, called bar number 10. Anyway, all this to say, like we had no money, right? Like we had $0. And one afternoon I lost my wallet. I like left it on the top of a cigarette machine and like walked off, and then like 2 minutes later realized and walked back and it was gone. So like my last like £5 and like my ID, like all, so like keepsake things that I gotten along the way had all gone. So like reframing that as like, obviously that's not the best thing that could have possibly happened. It was terrible, but we ended up having this amazing night because like once you make a report or whatever, like there's literally nothing else you can do, right? So sort of there were a whole like, I can't remember now because it was a million years ago, but like it meant that we were in this different spot, which meant we could go to this restaurant that we wanted to go to, or meant that, this whole series of events that ended up with it being this like super fun, beautiful night. Like, okay, I still had to deal with the wallet being gone the next day, but it actually made no difference, and we got to have a fun night and it made the whole experience so much better. And it ended with me giving his flatmate a haircut, and I have a photo of that somewhere and I will find it.
I thought you were going to say handjob.
That would have been the best thing that could have possibly happened for that guy.
Instead, he got an amazing haircut, and I'm sure looked very handsome.
I gave his flatmate a haircut.
It's like, yeah.
All right, that's it. We're done.
Silver lining.
All right, I think that's it. We're going to sign off. Haircuts and handjobs. Yeah. Follow us for more grade A content.
And sign up for our amazing newsletter that will be coming. I
am very excited now about the emojis on this one.
Coming to an inbox near you.
Okay. I love you, Alice.
It's going to be incredible. I love you, Jessamy.
Mwah.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
Thanks, darling.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Imposter Syndrome Club. Please follow us wherever you find your podcasts. And if you're feeling extra kind, rate and review. Or if you got any insights or value from this, share with a friend.
You can also find us on Instagram @ImposterPod or online at impostersyndromeclub.com.